I'm Robert Firpo-Capiello, Editor-in-Chief at Hospitality Technology. My guests are Michael Mrini, Director of Information Technology at Edwardian Hotels, London, Brian Kirkland, Chief Technology Officer at Choice Hotels, and John Laplante, Chief Information Officer at G6 Hospitality. Gentlemen, welcome to HT Next. I'm so psyched to have this particular group together to share wisdom about what is going on in 2020, what may be going on beyond. And of course, we're going to start with health and safety and all the ways that we are adjusting to what we call, for want of a better phrase, the new normal. How has technology been essential, and how has the pandemic affected technology roadmaps and implementation in 2020? Brian Kirkland of Choice Hotels, let's start with you.
Sure, and thanks for having me here. Just real quick, for those of you that aren't familiar with Choice, we have more than 7,000 hotels in over 40 countries, and we represent 1 in 10 hotel in the United States. So an interesting thing for Choice is that we're not just a hospitality company. We actually are a franchise company, and we're a technology company. So we provide software and services for those small business owners and over 200 million guests. And our franchisee base is basically, all of our hotels are basically franchisees. Now, back to the question, I'm happy to share that, with the pandemic and the effect it had on technology roadmaps and implementations, because of Choice's strength in leisure and drive-to markets, we have outperformed in many ways. So we didn't shut down, we stepped up. We went out and helped our franchisees. We were able to quickly pivot. And so we rolled out a bunch of programs like housekeeping on demand or contactless check-in or grab and go breakfast. And a big part of our ability to pivot quickly was the fact that we have been doing this digital transformation for many years. So we started our transformation back in 2005. We were the first major hotel company to go all in with AWS. And leveraging the cloud, we were able to adapt quickly, pivot, change to those guest preferences that evolved overnight. Our franchisee needs evolved overnight, and even our leadership's appetite for change evolved overnight. Red tape just basically disappeared. So we've actually been able to transform even faster during the pandemic than we were doing before, and we never really had to stop a lot of our major transformation initiatives, which, as the CTO, I'm very happy about. We're still migrating to the cloud, we're still investing in new technologies, and we're still focused on that long-term digital transformation.
Very cool. Thank you, Brian. John, I would love to hear a little background about G6 and then how the pandemic is affecting your technology roadmaps and implementations.
Absolutely. And Robert, again, thanks for having me here. So G6 Hospitality, we are the parent company of Motel 6 and Studio 6. So we are in the US and Canada. We are not just a franchisor, but we're also an operator ourselves. So we have just over 1,400 properties across the US and Canada, of which there's about 1,200 of those that are our franchise partners, and the remaining are our owned real estate, where we actually have our employees running those properties. And so that is one of those key differentiators for us as we talk not only to our guests, but to our franchisees. So we have skin in the game. We know what it's like when you talk about managing through a pandemic. We lived it with them. So we much like Choice, we kept our doors open. We did things a little differently. We did impose occupancy caps at all of our owned properties and advised our franchisees to make sure that they were following the correct CDC recommendations to run their properties. But for us, what that enabled us and what technology gave us was the ability to move very quickly through the pandemic. So when you talk about roadmaps, for us, we continued our cloud journey. So the last 3 years, we've talked a lot about IT 2.0, which has been our cloud migration. So all of our core systems, our property management systems, app-based, host in AWS. Our central reservation system is cloud-based. All of our distribution channels connect to that system. So when we really had to look at being able to stay open and frankly, by the minute changing what was happening at a hotel across the brand, ensuring that our guests, when they looked on the website or looked on an OTA, that when a room said it was available, that it was available, so that when they did book that room, they got to the property, that they were able to get checked in and move forward. So for us, our technologies really helped enable that agility of the business as we moved through this pandemic. And even through the pandemic, we had started at the end of last year, getting ready to launch our brand new brand website. And so for us, I'm happy to announce that within the next week, and by the time this is frankly said in December, we'll have deployed our brand new website that will help drive more traffic, give some of the experience that we're looking for that I'm sure we'll talk about later about some of that personalization, driving revenue, and ensuring that the guest has a rich experience there. So for us, we've continued down our cloud journey. Our website was our last piece of critical architecture in our on-prem environment. So we've really been able to continue to move forward with our cloud journey to ensure that we're able to provide a great experience for our guests, as well as for our franchisees who, as we all know, are small business owners and are the ones that are keeping the lights on for everyone in the US today.
Thank you, John. Michael, we'd love to hear a bit about Edwardian Hotels London and your how your technology has been affected by the pandemic.
Thank you. Well, Edwardian Hotels London is a privately owned and managed hotel group. We have got 12 hotels. 11 of them are in London and one in Manchester in the UK. And we were planning on opening our best hotel yet in the center of London, the Londoner, back in May. That has been delayed because of the lockdown, so we're hoping to open it, first or second quarter next year. Well, we have been affected by the pandemic like everyone else in the industry. It has been extremely tough, but just like Brian and John already said, we had started on our technology journey many years ago, and it came in extremely handy in the pandemic because our technology focused for many years, especially since 2015, on empowering both our guests and our employees through mobilization. So our employees have been working with the mobile apps since 2015. So they can do everything that can be done on a desktop, they can do on a mobile app. And we augmented that with AI. So our guests have been using an AI chatbot since 2016 and have been able to check in and check out online, as well as everything that they need to do throughout their journey, from making a reservation to inquiring and asking questions, whether it's about the hotel services and products or about the location. They have been doing that via our chatbot, Edward. And what we have done is we created choice for our guests. They can either use just SMS to interact with the chatbot and do their check-in and check-out, etc., or they can download an app from the App Store and Google Play. And what we have done, that it was very easy for us to, for example, the pandemic means for us in the UK that every guest has to fill in a mandatory COVID form prior to arrival. Well, it was very easy to automate that. They don't have to come and ask for a pen and paper and fill it in. So they are able to do that on the app online prior to arrival, submit their information, and they can only do that they can only check in if they have already done that. So all that is managed by the technology without needing manpower and employees to monitor all that, and with reducing the contact wherever possible. Mm-hmm. So typically now we went from us over the last 4 or 5 years, where we're promoting this technology to our guests, to suddenly it's our guests who are asking for it. Mm-hmm. They want the self-service, they want the contactless, and so on. And that has worked really well for us and enabled our employees as well.
Yeah.
So our employees are able to interact with our guests through these mobile apps, and reduced what we call it drudgery of some of the tasks. So not only our AI chatbot helps our guests, but also helps our employees. So, you know, you are in hotels, you understand there is a lot of processes in the PMS system, in the POS system, setting up rates, updating packages, etc. Our employees now are able to just tell the chatbot to do it for them, and Edward goes into, in our case, Opera, for instance, and makes changes to bookings and updates packages and stuff like that.
Yeah, Michael, that is a
Simplify.
great segue to actually my next question, because of course we always start with the customer journey, but the workforce journey and how technology enhances that experience, enhances morale, it enhances efficiency, ROI, is of course just as important. And so I would love to get everyone's thoughts on how when we talk about workforce, really there's two tiers to the question. I'd love to hear your thoughts about each. If you care to share, there's of course managing hotel staff and how technology can help with that. And then there's hiring and staffing at the engineering and the corporate level, and how that may be affected by the pandemic and beyond. John, I would love to hear, I'd love to start with you, hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, I think I'd actually even throw in a third realm in that, which is the overall support team of the brand. So as you heard both Brian and I say, we kept our doors open. And so when you keep your doors open during the pandemic, the efficiencies of your systems become critical to managing the event. So with our cloud-based environment that's connected through our fine-grained services, we're able to have a single point where a centralized team was able to go in and change room availabilities. The revenue managers, be it the revenue managers on the, for the franchisees or for our own stores, they make the change in their one system. And because of the way that we've architected our environment, it flows through all of the channels. And so for us, starting with that third group, our centralized teams were able to handle a large increase in daily transactions or requests for them because of the way that we've architected the environment to ensure, again, that from a guest standpoint, the experience is out there. So we didn't have to go out and hire people to help manage this. We kept the teams the same. They all went remote. We showed up to work on one Thursday, then the next Friday, it was, we're closing the corporate office because of the pandemic. Everybody go remote. And so because of these systems, our team members did not miss a beat supporting our owned operations and our franchise operations, which was critical for them to be able to move forward as well. So I think that that's the third group as well, that when I look at this. And so for us, when you talk about talent in cloud talent, the great thing for us is when everything is in the cloud and you're working in that environment, our developers, our engineers, our architects, their surroundings just changed. They weren't worried about where was that box, or I've got to go in and physically touch a computer. They're able to work the same way as they did before. They sit down and they're able to log into AWS, which is where all of our environments are housed, and perform the work that needs to be done, check to make sure that the statuses are where they need to be, and continue to move us forward. So for us, the shift of going from in the corporate office to at home for our technology teams and for all of our users was really quite seamless because of the technology that we had in play and enabled. So for us, we are able to pivot quickly and continue to have that support. As you know, unfortunately, when you look at what's happened in the hospitality industry, the revenues aren't there. So for us, when you talk about recruiting and finding talent, we're not really in a position where we're actively recruiting. But the good news is for us that we're able to retain our team members, and they're able to continue to move forward and move the needle forward for what we need them to do to move projects forward and support the day-to-day operations that are in place. And so then when you talk about the property and the property staff, for us, our property management system is app-based. So you have the front desk app, you have the maintenance app, you have the general manager app, you have the maintenance app. So all of that is all connected through our Hotel Key platform. So when you talk about the experience on property, they have those capabilities. Those team members that need the app have the app. And so a head housekeeper is aware of the status of a room. A maintenance request goes directly to the maintenance person so that they're able to take care of what needs to be done in that room. And then when you talk about back of the house, for us, for our own properties, we have our Workday HCM platform. And so for us to be able to help keep communication with our team members, ensure that they were able to, clock in and clock out and work and be paid as they expected to be paid, we had that capability, and to communicate with them and to message them to ensure that they saw changes in protocols. So like all other hospitalities, we have our Clean at 6 program. So we're able to connect to those team members, ensure that they knew what our cleaning protocols are at properties. So really our enablement from having the cloud has really been able to touch all areas. And then I guess the final area that I'd bring up, because I think, Michael hit the nail on the head about AI, is that for our contact center, we have Affinity, which is an AI driven helping it to ensure conversion. So for us, through the pandemic, we saw volumes go down, but because of our investment in Affinity and AI, we were able to retain a good number of our conversion rates as well. So when guests were calling, to make sure that that caller was assigned to the right agent to really get that great experience, convert that call, and drive revenue at the property where we need it.
Thank you, John. Now, Michael, as you were saying, the Edward, the chatbot, enhances not only the customer experience but the workforce experience. Did you want to elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, yeah. So, for instance, communication has been key. We, unlike you, John, unfortunately, we had to lock down. The rules here is we had to close the hotels. We closed for about since March, and we reopened gradually in August. As you know, there is no overseas travel here in Europe, so the occupancy is still very low. So the first of all, the workforce management, the technology, and especially AI has been key, because to use predictive algorithms of the occupancy, and therefore let the housekeeping how many employees they need to recall. Also distributing our employees between hotels, so you no longer just work in one hotel, you work in all the hotels in the vicinity. We have got a lot of hotels within walking distance from each other. So how do you communicate with thousands of employees at once? Well, in our case, the chatbot has been great because it knows every employee. It knows who is scheduled to work and who is not. And it's able to not only proactively communicate to the employees, but also the employees ask questions. When is my next shift? Well, the AI chatbot has got access to all these systems we talked about, including our workforce management system and the rotas, etc. And the chatbot checks for them and gives them the information. Also questions like, well, how many people are we expecting tomorrow? How many sleepers for food and beverage, so that they plan in advance. They just ask the AI, Edward. So it has been the glue between the hosts and the guests and the business, and it's basically enabled everyone of us to be better hosts to our guests under these difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Michael. We're getting near the end of our session. Brian from Choice Hotels, I'm going to give you the last word. Your thoughts on workforce and again, whether it's hotel staff or at the corporate and engineering level, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Sure, thank you. I think everybody agrees that the impact of the properties has been significant, right? Those hotel owners, they're fighting to keep their businesses alive. So at Choice, on the franchisee support side, we've done everything we can to help those owners. So right out of the gates immediately, we had hundreds of people across the company who left their day job, but were refocused on directly helping those franchisees. So for example, we called every single franchisee in our system multiple times and help them out with things that are kind of outside the norm, right? We're helping them with federal aid applications. We're helping them find ways to keep their staff employed, their doors open, their guests served. We're doing what we needed to do to help them survive and put our focus on them. So they, we have somebody in marketing that would stop doing their marketing activity and go over and help franchisees for a while. So everybody was kind of swarming to help the business and help the franchisees survive on the operational side of the house. On the, because of that, the benefit of that, over 90% of our hotels remained open even in the worst week of the pandemic, which is a great stat for us. And it leads to why Choice has an industry-leading voluntary franchisee retention rate of 98%. On the corporate side of the house, luckily we didn't have a big impact to our corporate staffing. We were able to keep our staff focused on delivering and pivoting like I talked about previously. Now, an interesting thing that, just to be brief, I think that the entire industry, travel industry, is going to have to adjust to a massive evolution that occurred with this pandemic. And it doesn't only impact travel, but it definitely impacts travel very directly. And the shift I'm talking about is the entire world basically fast forwarded remote workforce a decade into the future, right? A year ago, none of us would have been able to convince our CEO to take 100% of our staff and go work remote on some sort of a pilot or test scenario, right? It wasn't a reality. It wasn't going to happen. This year, that's the new norm. And what we're trying to figure out is what's the next norm, right? Everybody knows the world we're in today is a temporary state. But what is the end state going to look like when we get past the pandemic? And what does that do to evolving how we work and how our associates and our employees work? To the points that John made, our people can work anywhere. We're in the cloud. We can code from home. We can code from the beach. The interesting challenge for us as technology companies and as hospitality companies is our associates are obviously extremely valuable. The knowledge they have, the skills they have, the value they provide to the enterprise. The big interesting challenge now is that they can work from anywhere and they can work for anywhere. And so a lot of what we're focused on right now is, yeah, the recruiting might be down in hospitality in general based on where revenue is. But for us, it's really about telling the story and making sure people understand we're evolving, we're transforming, we're innovating at Choice, and it is a place that people want to come and work. And now we can recruit them from anywhere. They can come work for us even if they aren't near our technology headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. We can hire somebody anywhere to come work for the company. And so it's opening up our opportunity to bring talent in to drive that innovation even further. And I think wherever that industry, the world lands on remote workforce is going to have a huge impact on how every company's done recruiting and retention and hiring. And it's going to be important for all of us to make sure that we're paying attention to that.
Brian Kirkland of Choice Hotels, John Laplante from G6 Hospitality, and Michael Mrini from Edwardian Hotels London. Thank you so much for sharing these insights with the HT Next audience. Inspiring and actionable advice, and we really, really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Robert.